there's this whole black hole on YouTube with videos talking about how to study more productively, or how to study better, or how to study smarter. Well, I'm here to tell you guys that those videos are absolutely bogus.
Absolutely bogus.
I mean, you're an intelligent person. You seem an intelligent person, so tell me, how are you actually supposed to study smarter when you are a real adult and you have real responsibilities, and actually one of those responsibilities might actually be a real toddler? In some people's opinion, and this is not my opinion because I would never ever say anything like this, but in some people's opinion, toddlers are actually the worst type of humans that ever existed. I would never say this. Other people. I mean, I have to deal with my child taking his clothes off on Zoom calls, banging his head against a table just to get my attention, and shoving pens up his nose in the middle of my workflow. And sometimes he even tries to feed my laptop. And despite this, I try to be the best student that I can be. And if you want to know more about my strategies and how I actually study at home with a toddler, then I guess this video is for you. Hello, my name is Mariam, and in my prime years I decided to have a baby, one of those little tiny humans, and also go back to university. Well, I did this in an attempt to make my life better, with the belief that women can have it all. Women can have it all? Well, that's a discussion for another time. Well, anyway, today I wanted to make a video about all the strategies that I have accumulated whilst in this journey of motherhood and student life, whilst trying to be the most productive person that I can be. I just want to put a bit of a disclaimer and say that please trust me when I say that I am just about floating above water. And I know there's lots of overly ambitious and underly intelligent adults like me in the world. Well, this is how I do it, and I advise you to skip to the parts of the videos that you find most relevant. My bigger advice for you would be that please do not try any of this at home. So the most default thing that I've tried to do is just to study whilst he sleeps. And this has actually got more harder as lockdown in the UK has progressed, because his bedtime is literally all over the place. Since this second lockdown, we've actually taken him out of nursery as well. So he's literally at home full time with me, and sometimes I need my lie-ins and I have to kind of strategically play for him to sleep a bit later so that he wakes up a little bit later. But that just means that as lockdown has progressed, it's got a little bit harder for me to study whilst he sleeps, just because by that time I am absolutely knackered. And I guess the other thing to do with that is the fact that I don't really have the stamina that I had when I was a student. I remember pulling out all-nighters left, right and centre, but now every time somebody mentions an all-nighter, I really get like, my head just fills up with anxiety, and I just can't believe that they are doing that to themselves. Like, now an all-nighter for me basically is like 1 or 2 or actually about 3 a.m. I'd say is the latest that I can actually keep my eyes open. But it's true, guys, as you get older you do get more sleepy. So this reason is a little bit easier since he's gotten a bit older, because I am trying to teach him certain things. So what I've tried to make him understand is that there is a segregation of time, which we call study time. And during that time, what normally happens is that I study and he basically sits down with me and studies with me. We have a guest. Say hello.
Hello.
This is not study time. This is what time? Filming time.
Filming time with mommy.
With your Ummy John. Okay, can we stand over there please whilst I film? Anyway, so yeah, so I have like some segregated activities for like maths, English, science and also Arabic, and we basically go through each of those activities whilst he's sitting next to me, and I'm studying and he's studying, and that can be literally any time, but he knows now that there's a separate time for studying where we both study, and that's really just worked out for us, I think, because it's all about getting it in his brain. चलो आप सोए भी मैं wait करें? मैं आती हूँ. Okay, I'm only going to be 2 more minutes. So the next one, guys, is actually a secret weapon of mine. The amazing thing about having a virtual babysitter is that the other person doesn't know that they're a virtual babysitter. So they will freely hand out their time to you without many repercussions, like a payment. I think you can only really do this if your child is at a certain level of maturity, and I would never have actually done it when he was younger. But there are some trusted people around, namely certain family members or certain friends that really just love having a conversation with him. And he loves having a conversation, literally. I mean, if he could choose between talking and playing, he would definitely choose the talking and having a conversation. So what actually happens is that I FaceTime somebody and he basically starts talking to them, and they play games like hide and seek on screen or I Spy or whatever they want to make up and whatever they want to do. He normally has loads of stories to tell as well, and whilst that's kind of going on in the background, I am there studying and doing my own thing. The only downside to this is that you kind of have to helicopter over him, because given the chance he will do anything on the phone that he's not allowed to do, and you know, I really don't want that to happen. And the other downfall is that he can literally just hang up the phone and I won't know what's happening. When I do choose to use a virtual babysitter, it's actually whilst he's in the same room and whilst I'm not doing anything too strenuous or something that needs my total attention, because I know that, yeah, life with a toddler, hey? My real big advice is that, and this is something that I've totally learned the hard way, especially when there's deadlines involved, just always cut out extra time for whatever you are planning to do. The sad thing about having a toddler is that, or any child or anything that you're responsible for, is the fact that anything can happen, anything can come up, and when those anythings do come up, usually they're at a time and a place where you really just can't afford for that to happen. So before, I remember whilst I was at university, I always used to leave my deadlines right till the last moment. You know, if there was a deadline at 12 p.m, literally it was 11:57 usually when I'd submit something, and that was totally fine because that was university life. And fortunately for me, I've never been in a situation previously where I've had to miss a deadline for that reason. But especially with having something that can cause mishap at any single time, just allocating an extra day or two or even a couple of hours really does help. Again, a downfall definitely is that I sometimes find it really difficult to work without the pressure of an actual deadline in place, but I just have to keep reminding myself that, hey, I am doing this for the greater good, and hey, something bad is going to happen, so just get your shit done. And the other thing that I do is just try to use television a bit more constructively. I only really turn to television when I really have to. I try not to give it to him just for entertainment, and he has got to the age where he starts to ask for more cartoons. And although that's something that we really prohibited for the first couple of years of his life, it's something that we've kind of had to introduce more and more into his routine. But now I try to use it more constructively, which means that I only use it when I know that I cannot parent him with the same attention that I do for the rest of the day. But if there's opportunities where I don't have to give him the television, because with the television, the thing is that he can pretty much be in the television room and just be completely unsupervised for at least half an hour. But when I feel like, hey, I would be able to supervise him a little bit more and I don't really need to concentrate totally on a piece of work, then I do choose to do activities or hover around him doing activities that he necessarily wouldn't really have that same screen time. So yeah, I think the whole point is using screen time constructively by given the opportunity to just talk about this. And I think it's quite important that you are quite wary of what your children watch. So with Hisham, you know, I try to put things in that are a little bit more educational, or things that I know that he's going to be learning something from. So now that he's learning how to speak in Arabic, a little trick that I use is on Netflix for a lot of the cartoons and shows, for example, you can actually choose the language that it's dubbed in. So I just literally use the Arabic one, and I know even if then he's not watching something that's necessarily educational, he is kind of consuming some kind of education and something stimulating his brain. And for that reason, I do everything that I can to just kind of trick him. So that's all from me, guys, today. These are the things that I use to actually build in study hours for myself. I don't know if all of them will work for you, but I'm hoping that you can get some kind of inspiration from them. And hopefully, if you are thinking of going back to education, or you're already there and you're suffering and you have children at home, then maybe you can use some of these tips and tricks to actually step forward in your life. Because you know what, guys, there is nothing more important than just growing and developing ourselves constantly. So if your path is towards education, then good for you and good for your children.
Mama, ये टर्न करे ना.
You okay?
अमिता, जब कोई किसी को छोड़ते, हम वो वाला गेम खेलें.
No, thank you.